Good evening to our secondary level parents. Thank you for joining this evening for this parent forum. For those of you who are participating and we're hoping to learn about the elementary learning model, we began that parent forum at 6 p.m. and concluded 6:30. That will be available on our website. And I apologize for the parents who attended that. For the first part, many of the slides and the information will just be a repeat of the earlier parent forum. With that, though, I would like to begin this evening and just certainly on the 1-year anniversary of COVID-19 hitting our region, our community, to acknowledge our secondary level administrators here this evening for their hard work, their diligence, their professionalism, for the efforts they made over the course of this past year to create safe, positive, and impactful learning environments for our students and for our families. I appreciate your dedication and your singular focus, and just feel it's important that we begin tonight to acknowledge your efforts and continuing commitment to students and families. I also, as I mentioned in the elementary parent forum, want to acknowledge and thank our district staff, our teachers, for overcoming so many challenges this year, for demonstrating excellence in teaching and learning, for being creative and innovative, for adjusting on the fly, for learning new skills and strategies, but most important, putting students first and making sure that every day is a joyful day of learning. I also finally just want to acknowledge and thank our custodians, our maintenance staff, our clerical staff for doing everything to make this year a tremendous success. I appreciate the patience of parents who have many questions and submitted questions about the next phase of the school year. And so tonight I hope to, with the help of Dr. Al Saki, principal of Homricks Middle School, and Ms. Elizabeth Klain, principal of Mamaroneck High School, share our plans and details of the full return to students for full day learning, in-person learning as well, and the remote option. So with that, I'm going to begin. This will be the first, what I would say, of an ongoing effort on our part to provide information to support parents and students' decision-making as we move forward, and ask you to commit to a learning plan for the remainder of the year. I thought it was fitting to start the presentation just with a quote from Allison Bartlett, a professor of pediatric infectious diseases at the University of Chicago School of Medicine, because the year has been about understanding the risks of reopening our schools, of recognizing that our families and students have personal challenges and situations that force all of us to consider the risk of coming to school, of understanding the impact on family members, extended family members. And so as Professor Bartlett suggests, it'll never be and has never been 100% risk-free to return to school. We know a lot more than we did last spring. That is an understatement, about how to prevent transmission, and vaccination is on the rise. It is our hope and it's our effort to continue to focus on health and safety as a priority to ensure that we minimize risk and make sound decisions about the next phase of learning for our community and for our students and families. I've received many emails from parents asking why now, and similarly, teachers who've been successful in navigating this academic year have asked the same question. For one, the health metrics in our region, in our community, have certainly been positive over the course of the last 5 weeks. We've seen a steady decline in cases across Westchester County and in our 3 communities. Where it is not a predictor of what may lie ahead, we are in somewhat pleased to see the diminishing or declining number of cases in our community. We are ecstatic that our teachers and educational professionals have been given the opportunity to participate in the vaccination program. I know that looking at our data that a number of our staff members have started or completed the vaccination protocol, and that adds a layer of protection and safety in our schools. We've looked at and continue to examine the data on transmission rates in schools, not only in our area, but across the globe. And certainly there is positive, I would say, data on the rate of transmissions in schools, and we've learned a lot about how this virus works. Similarly, there's been a number of studies over the last 9 months focusing on social distancing and how the virus is transmitted. And we've learned a lot. And as I mentioned, as we started school this year, we focused on cleaning of surfaces, really trying to do everything possible to create a positive and healthy environment. And we now know that surface transmission is less likely than it is through aerosol transmission. We have been monitoring the data of surrounding school districts, looking at districts in our area that began the year with a full day of learning, with a higher concentration of students and their strategies and the impact of that decision throughout the course of the year. Ultimately, it is about weighing trade-offs and benefits and risk. And so where we certainly are, I would say, concerned by this ongoing public health crisis, we believe that students need to return to school, that there are the benefits for their social emotional well-being, their academic success point to a return and transition to school. So I wanted just to give you a brief overview of some important dates, our timeline as we plan for the return or reopening of full day learning on Thursday, April 8th. Many of you received from Ms. Klain and Dr. Saki a survey asking you to talk with your student and discuss a commitment for the remainder of the school year. We ask that parents following this presentation and over the coming days consider the option for learning for the remainder of the school year and make that commitment by Thursday, March 11th. Ms. Klain has and will soon to announce with her administrative team a 9th grade tour for Friday, March 19th. We recognize, and as Ms. Klain has mentioned, many of our 9th graders have yet to come into school. And so we would like to give them the opportunity to become familiar, to tour the school and feel comfortable. In preparation for this transition, we've announced that Tuesday, April 6th and Wednesday, April 7th will be asynchronous learning days. April 7th will be the last date for what I would say is the current model. We will transition on the 8th, and so at the elementary level, that will mean a possibility of a change for remote learning and a new teacher and or how we organize classes. However, at the secondary level, everything will be status quo in terms of schedule, courses, and teachers. We are moving forward with a plan to reinstate voluntary random surveillance testing using the saliva-based test in Miramis Labs. We will probably move forward with about a 5% random sample on a weekly basis, or 270 combined staff and students, so that we can monitor our communities and make sure that we aren't seeing change in positivity rates in our schools. We have designated the April 6th and 7th as medication drop-off days. We know that typically in a normal school year in August, nurses are working with families to coordinate medication for full day. And so we will designate those 2 days for med drop-off. And finally, we are looking forward to welcome back those students who choose the option of full day learning back on Thursday, April 8th. At the bottom of the slide here, we just highlight that we ask students to make a commitment for the remainder of the year. This change is going to require significant planning for our classrooms to accommodate the number of students who wish to come back to in-person learning. And in order to be able to continue to operate and focus on the learning environment, we ask that people make a decision and determination for the rest of the year. I want to touch on just a number of health and safety measures that will continue. It's in some changes that are important to share. Beyond the random surveillance testing, we will continue with the mask mandate. We recognize that introducing the lunch period at the secondary level will require students to remove their masks. We will talk about and speak to the protocol. I noticed that we have a misspelling of 6 feet in the presentation slide, but it's important to note that we will adhere to and expect students to keep masks on at all times. We're going to adjust social distancing rules and work within the 3 to 6 foot social distancing regulations. This will mean that we will be required to provide mitigation strategies, which will be in the form of desk shields that will be attached to all desks. With the shift to full day learning, we will change our cleaning protocols. We will continue to clean within the school buildings and common areas throughout the day. We will transition to deep cleaning using our electrostatic sprayers in the afternoons and evenings to ensure that when students and staff return the next day, our schools, classrooms and buildings will be clean and to the level of, certainly the highest level of cleaning that consistent with what we currently do each day. We will continue to rely on the needlepoint bipolar ionization air purifiers that run 24/7 in all classroom spaces and areas of our building. That in combination with fresh air exchange will really create optimal conditions for indoor air quality. And so we've been monitoring the needlepoint air purifiers to make sure that they're running on a consistent basis and making sure that students and staff have access to clean air. I want to point out that there's been a lot of research about opening windows, and I know that teachers will continue to have the option to open windows throughout the spring and ensure that we have good circulation in all classroom spaces. I'm going to shift at this point over to our school leaders and ask Dr. Saki just to summarize the changes that will be in place as we welcome back students for full day learning.
Well, thank you, Dr. Shaps. Good evening, parents, community members. I hope everyone is well. Thank you for joining us tonight for our presentation. And, you know, I want to kind of jump right onto the topic that I know is in a lot of folks' minds, obviously, which is lunch, right? So just so that you all know, you know, lunch will be eaten in school. It will be eaten during a designated common lunch period. During this time, all students will be having lunch at the same time. Further in the presentation, I'm going to get a little bit more into that. The other piece is, for the most part, our students' daily schedule is going to remain intact. They will be seeing all their teachers throughout the course of the day, and they will maintain their 44-minute period length. There'll be some provisions that will have to be made to account for the community lunch and some alterations or adjustments to the end of the school day. All students will have a designated time to eat lunch daily. Like I said, I'm going to jump into that a little bit more later. In regards to the current layout of the building, where students are separated by grade level, and each grade level has its own entrance. You know, as you know, our students even enter the building with everyone having their own separate entrance to come into the building. So, you know, 6th graders by the pool, you know, 7th and 8th grade or by the north and south entrances. Like, that structure is going to remain the same. And this will allow us to kind of minimize any kind of exposure between the grade levels. That was something that was important for us, and wanted to make sure that we maintain that practice. And I think, similar to what Dr. Shaps had shared, and for us to kind of keep in mind right now, all of this works if our numbers remain where they are. Obviously, if we see a rise in our school or community positivity rate, there is a possibility of us transitioning back to the hybrid model. I am hopeful. I truly believe that, you know, we're going to get through this, and that, you know, we're going to remain low in the building and in the community so that we can keep school open. Next slide, please. Like I mentioned before, in this model, all students will have a community lunch. This will allow students to remain in their core classes So their core and their encore classes. So that would be the class that they would normally end before lunch. They will stay in that class for their lunch. This is going to serve a few purposes. One is that it's going to limit the amount of movement that will be occurring during the lunch waves. And this will also limit the use of the big open cafeteria space during lunch. In this model, the other thing to pay attention to is that, the timing of lunch is going to be reduced from 44 minutes to 30 minutes. And we're going to be making some accommodations for some of our students who may need an alternate eating space, especially those who may need some movement breaks during the lunch period. Now, the good news about lunch is that, our school lunch program has been extended through the end of the school year. So all students have access to lunch free of charge to every child every day. Another thing to note is that there are going to be no hot meals. So we're going to have the same grab and go process that we currently have for students for lunch. And our students are already accustomed to this process. So they're going to have the same type of offerings during lunch. Another thing to note is that at the end of the day, as students are leaving to go home, their breakfast for the next day will be made available to them. So that as they're leaving, they'll be able to grab their lunch, they're able to grab their breakfast for the following day. So that goes that they'll have breakfast at home and then come to school and have lunch at school. And then finally, due to the arrangement of eating in classrooms, it's going to be important that Hammocks remains a nut-free environment. So this would mean that please ensure that students are not bringing any type of nuts to the building. Again, in order for us to stay nut-free and the fact that children be eating in the classroom, we have to make sure that students are not bringing any type of nuts into the building. At this point, I will transition to Ms. Klain.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks, Dr. Saki. We are extremely excited to welcome everybody back for full day learning, and we hope that after the presentation that you will feel comfortable with this decision and press the yes on the form. So for Mamaroneck High School, what do you need to know? The current 8-period schedule is going to remain in place for a variety of reasons, which we don't need to get into tonight, but just know that that's going to remain in place. As we move into the spring, we're going to be looking at a number of outdoor spaces like when we started in the fall. So pace, music, theater, dance, all the PE classes, art classes, a lot of those classes were out well into November. So we anticipate that that will be happening again as soon as the weather gets a little bit warmer. The travel patterns that we established in September will remain in place, and those have been working very, very well to minimize congestion. Obviously, there's going to be 50% more students in the building. And so like we did when we began the year and did an analysis of is the 33% working, we will be out there making sure that congestion isn't happening. And if we have to make changes, we'll make changes. But for now, we're feeling pretty confident, and students are incredibly respectful about following those patterns. And we really haven't had any issues at all with that. The students will remain with their students for the remainder of the year. So that's great news. And there's no reason to worry about that at all. The only thing that we may need to do, and this is the reason why we really need you to fill out that form and get it back in a timely fashion, is adjust the classroom spaces where classes are taking place. So if students can't fit into one classroom, then we're going to be doing some movement. And that's the work we're going to be doing over the next couple of weeks. It took us about 3 weeks to do that in August. So again, fill out that form by Thursday, please. We'll continue with our daily attestation forms. As the students know it, green screen, please. They've got that. We will have no problem getting kids in the building because we're really in a pattern right now. So this is a little bit of a change, and I'm sure our 11th and 12th graders are going to be really delighted about this. As all of you know, Mamaroneck High School has been an open campus until this year. when we needed to put study halls into place so that we knew where students were and for the duration of the half day. Now we're saying to the 11th and 12th graders in particular, if you do have a free period, we encourage you to leave the building, go sit outside, stay socially distanced, but we trust our 11th and 12th graders to do the right thing by leaving the building. In addition, the less people in the building, right, that's better for us. So the study halls, we will continue with our study halls for our 9th and 10th graders. And we just want to make sure that those study halls aren't overcrowded. So the 11th and 12th graders, I'm sure you'll be very happy to get out, and we encourage you to do so. However, if there is an 11th or 12th grader who wants to work in the library, there will be spots available. We have a QR system that is being put into place so that we'll be able to just, you'll come in, scan, and we'll know where you're sitting. And it was tested today in the library for the first time. Focus Fridays will continue. And I just want to remind the community that while we're encouraging people, the majority of you, we want all of you to come back full time, we do know that there will be some families that will choose to remain fully remote. And those are our students as well. And we do need to make sure that we take care of those students and providing those students, as well as the kids who are moving periods 1 through 8, the time to meet with their teachers during those office hours is very, very important to us. In addition, the advisory program, we want to continue with that. And so the Focus Fridays will remain in place. Thanks, Dr. Shabs. Okay, so lunch for Mamaroneck High School, for anybody who's ever been in the high school during lunch, you know what it looks like in a regular year. We're trying to avoid that. So we do not want students sprawled all over the building, not socially distanced. So what we're asking is that if the weather is nice, please leave the building. And that basically means as long as it's not raining and it's above, I don't know what we'll say, 40 degrees. I don't know what we'll determine a number, but hopefully by April, we're going to have a beautiful spring and we won't have to think about this. On inclement weather days, we will have a number of sites that students can report to eat their lunch. Our expectation is that when students go into the auditorium, the post gym, the Palmer gym, the cafeteria, that they will scan there again with the QR code that will sync with a document that we have that we will then know who was sitting next to whom in that particular area if we need to do contact tracing. We will have supervision in those sites. But again, the expectation is that students eat and then they put their mask up. And anybody who's ever seen a teenager eat knows it is not a 1 hour process, right? So we expect you eat 5 minutes, 8 minutes, 10 minutes, and then put the mask up. Not that we want you to scoff it down, but you get the idea. So we're hoping to keep the spaces as far apart. It will range from 3 to 6 feet, depending upon what the numbers look like. I don't expect, and after having spoken to quite a number of 11th and 12th graders in the last couple of days, they're telling me, Ms. Clayton, there's no way we're eating lunch inside, even on rainy days. So I expect that a lot of kids will be leaving, and I know, but we are offering the option, and we do know that not everybody has the ability to leave campus during the day, and so we certainly will be offering that. And like Dr. Saki said, we also will have the grab and go bags, and from reports we're getting, those are very nice lunches. I have not participated because they're not for adults, but I hear that they're very nice lunches. So that will continue. Can you just go back 1 second, Dr. Shabs? I just wanted to say one other thing. We're also, that period 4 or 5, we are encouraging students to leave campus again so that they can have an extended lunch period, and again to alleviate the number of students in the building. That can be even for our 9th graders. right? So this is the beginning of taking off the training wheels for our ninth graders. In any other given year, the ninth graders would have had a free period and would be moving in and out of the building. If parents have concerns about that, feel free to call me. We've done this for 20, 30 years. Your children will be fine. And the other thing I wanted to say was that if students have period 1 free or 8 free, we're saying to you, please don't come in first period. Again, the less people in the building, the less time, the better we are. And the same thing, if a student has 7th period free, please leave. You don't need to sit around the building. Okay, thanks, Dr. Shaps.
So I wanted to just provide a visual for parents. I mentioned in the elementary presentation that while we recognize and certainly we encourage students to return to school, that our classroom environments will look different and learning will be different from pre-COVID and current COVID, our current model. This is a snapshot of an elementary classroom, but I'd like to at least point out that all desks, student desks, will be equipped with a trifold desk shield. Students will be separated through social distancing, whether it's in rows or clusters. The point here is that we will, with more students, require students to remain stationary, and teachers will work within their 6-foot teaching area zone. And so this will be a significant adjustment for both students who attend school for full day learning, as well as our teachers. And so we ask for certainly cooperation, patience, and parents to understand that our teachers will adjust, but certainly this will be significant in terms of change in the learning environment and require really the ability for teachers to kind of get used to it. And so we want to be clear on how significant this change is for all.
Thank you, Dr. Shaps. So this is in relation to both Mamaroneck High School and the Homics. So all students who choose the fully remote model will continue to receive our fully remote instruction in grades 6 through 12. Students who will be receiving the fully remote model will be following the same structure that we currently have now. So they will still be receiving their lessons via live stream through Zoom or through Google Classroom. This model has been successful for us through this hybrid process, and I'm confident that it shall continue to be even as we go into this new full day model. Please note that students who choose the remote option will have to remain remote students for the remainder of the year. And like Ms. Klein and Dr. Shaps had shared, the deadline is this Thursday. So please make it a point. I mean, obviously sooner the better. If you did it tonight, even better. The quicker we get this information, the quicker we can do our planning and get things up and running in time. And I can get back to you with more information as to exactly what our structure is going to look like. All that is all going to depend on the number of students who we actually have coming into the building. So please fill out that form. Dr. Shaps, next slide, please. So considering we'll be having a large number of our students back at the same time, we will be looking to revise some of our arrival and dismissal procedures. We will still have to obviously do our temperature checks. And like, Ms. Klein had shared, the attestation form is going to be mandatory, obviously. That's something that we need all of our students to complete every morning. So please make it a point. If you notice on my weekly email, I try and attach it. So I'm going to try and start attaching that, moving forward. Please make it a point every morning before your children leave home that attestation form is completed. We will still need to determine what kind of movement is actually going to occur during the building, during transitions. So obviously now we're going to be transitioning, probably over 1,000 students, right, in the hall during every passing time. Like I shared before, we are still going to be purposeful in where students are actually situated in the building. So we still have students right now separated by grade level in certain sections of the building. So that will help with the transition. But obviously, when you're moving from like 500 to 1,000, there's still going to be some thinking that has to go into those transitions and what those are going to look like. I'd also like to clarify quickly in terms of the music and PE rotation. If you remember, during the hybrid, we had to go AABB because we had split the cohorts. That now that we're going to have, the majority of our students, with the exception of our fully remote students in the building, we can go back to our traditional AB rotation for music and PE. In our Papa model, since we will have most students here at the same time again, that'll get us back to that AB rotation. One key piece we're working on is how to incorporate extra help. So, this is something that came up a few times, and even in conversation with our leadership team, as well as the PTA. How do we look to incorporate, some extra help into this new model? So there is still a lot of discussion and work that needs to be done on that. So, I will be getting back in touch with you in terms of exactly what that's going to look like. Another big consideration is how to ensure that our students are receiving the mental health supports that they need. Obviously our students have been, for those who are fully remote and are now coming back fully in person, that's quite the transition, right? So for the students who haven't been hybrid at all and we're fully remote and are transitioning, straight into a full day of school, I think we're going to work to see how we can ensure that there's some kind of mental health support available for those students. So we're thinking about everything, including, how our mental health staff can, pull small groups of students during lunch and try and figure out just different ways to make sure that we're providing students with the supports that they need coming back into this full school model. Obviously there's still a lot more work that has to be done on this, but, I'm pretty confident that with the group that we have, with the staff that we have, that we're going to get this done well and effectively for our students. Please again take some time and complete that form. That data is just very, very important. The quicker we get that, the quicker we're able to get our plans in motion and create a model that's going to be fantastic for our students. So thank you. At this time, I'll transition back to Ms. Klein.
Right, so I've already implored upon you to just give us your information, because one of the ways we're going to figure out where students are located is from that information. So that's one of the things we'll be considering in the next couple of weeks. As I said, we're going to be looking at our arrival and dismissal protocols and also the transition between classes. A couple of things we're still having to work out are those groups that have been meeting during lunch remotely, like OSR and OKRA. So what's going to happen to those groups? We're in conversations with the teachers about that. And the same thing with clubs and student government. Our hope is that as spring comes along, that students will be able to meet outside with their advisor, 6 feet apart with their masks on. And that will be the nice thing, that can be taking place in person. So we definitely have work to do, but we're really, really excited to welcome our students back full-time into the building.
So thank you. And I just want to certainly say thank you to Ms. Klein and to Dr. Saki for their continuing work to prepare for the next phase. I also wanted to just mention that we recognized, and I brought this up during the elementary parent forum, that as higher concentration of students enter into our schools, that there is the likelihood that we may see a rise in the number of students who will be required to quarantine. And so I think it's important that as much as we're trying to do our part to minimize risk, that's a possibility. And as Dr. Saki mentioned earlier, we'll continue to monitor in the coming weeks and throughout the remainder of the school year the positivity rates in our community, and want parents to know in full disclosure that if there's an abrupt turnaround and certainly a change in the positivity of confirmed cases, the levels, that we may have to adjust with short notice and revert back to a hybrid and/or remote model. So we appreciate your patience, your cooperation, and understanding in advance of this period of time. With that, I want to say thank you to those who are been part of this information meeting. We appreciate, again, your resilience, your support, your cooperation, and we know that we'll continue this conversation at the building level. We encourage you to email to school leaders your questions, concerns. We hope to provide answers prior to any final determination, knowing that we have a lot more work to do, a lot more details to work out, and that we will share that information as we move closer to the April 8th date. With that, I just want to say thank you to our secondary level administrators for participating this evening, for your continuing hard work. And we look forward to welcoming everyone back who is interested in returning to full-time learning on Thursday, April 8th. And with that, I say good evening, and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you. Bye now.